Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
In the business of hilarity and mirth making, as it were, experience helps. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals, and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to assume that you do, because you're listening to us right now. You can subscribe to the podcast, give us one of those big 5-star ratings. You can find us over at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, basically wherever you get your podcasts. And plus, we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel, so if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram for all sorts of updates at either at In the Seats or at It's Podcast One. And finally, I say it a lot, but it's where this all birthed. It's where it all happened. Please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, the moving image at large. Because, you know, if we love to write about it and talk about it, and we love it when you come by and listen about it and read about it. So please stop on by for, well, any sort of mirth making that we can think of. And speaking of mirth making, it's another double shot of LOL, Last One Laughing Canada, which is rolling out new episodes on Prime Video now up here in Canada, and I would imagine worldwide as well, but it's getting a bit more attention up here. And it is the concept, it's basically a contest show for charity, but they lock 10 of Canada's best in a room, and they have to make each other laugh without making the other one laugh, and insanity prevails. And especially when you get a room full of sort of comedic killers as this one is. But we, in promotion of the show, we had the distinct pleasure of, once again, this is our second time talking to him, we sat down with Mr. Colin Mochrie, who audiences will know from Whose Line Is It Anyway, in its various iterations. Just yet another hilarious sort of piece of comedy. And we asked him just about if he went into this thinking it was old hat, or how the experience was, and just sort of, you know, being in a room of sort of the best that Canada had to offer, and him being one of them. And because he is definitely an icon when it comes to sort of comedic acting here in our fantastic country. But Colin, as always, is a fun interview, and he's, well, in my opinion, one of the kings of mirth makers from our fair country. And that's saying something, because we produce quite a few. But check out Last One Laughing Canada on Prime Video now. As I said, every new episodes drop every Friday. But first, enjoy our talk with Colin, because it's a good one. First off, obviously, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate this.
Oh, you know how tough it is to get, actors to talk about themselves for hours.
For sure, absolutely.
It's heartrending.
No, I mean, this new show on Prime Video, I mean, obviously, I was dying laughing. It's hilarious. But, I mean, I'm kind of curious, because people on the outside looking in might look at this, and they might see your face and go, oh, I've seen him do that before. It's old hat. Why is this different? Tell me, I'm curious on your perspective on why this was a different beast.
Well, when I'm doing Whose Line, obviously I'm working with people who aren't funny. So that certainly helped. But, we're working in short games. So to keep the focus for that game is quite easy. And of course, there are times where we break up because we don't know what's going to happen next. But, you get into a rhythm, and I found I'm very good on Whose Line anyway, keeping a straight face. With this show, you're in a room for 6 hours with 10 comedians, each with a different point of view, and not people I know extremely well. I knew many of them, but I really didn't know what to expect. And it's also hard to keep your focus for that long. There were times, and as idiotic as it sounds, that I forgot what the main rule of the game was. Because you're hanging out with comedians, you're just talking, and when you're talking with friends, the natural thing is to smile. And so it was very hard to think, no, this is not just a conversation. This is a competition. Get in the game.
Now, I mean, how do you sort of, I guess, sort of fine tune what you want to do? Because, I mean, the whole idea of the show is that you're basically on. You have to be on the entire time. There's no on off. There's no sort of going into the corner and working on something. You just have to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do improv. I don't have, oh, I'll do my this bit or this bit. So when we were told, it would be in your best interest if you come up with different bits that you can do, and feel free to use props, or you could use the band. So I came up with some ideas, and I still felt this is not my strength. It's just idiotic. It amazed me how quickly I got into, I don't care, I'm going to do anything. I don't care how embarrassing this is or how shameless it is. I'm just going to go for it. Because there were times there would be nothing, and then I just go, hey, you want to see a penguin having sex? And then you think, oh, okay, so that's what I came up with. Now I'm going to have to fully commit to that. So it was interesting. And there were times where I would have to sort of go into a corner, just to sort of take a deep breath and okay, that didn't work. And then, you're constantly aware there's cameras. There's nowhere you can hide. They're watching you. There was a lot of cameras. I'm going to say 300. That might be a lot, but it did seem
Sounds about right.
Nowhere you could hide. So, and every time that buzzer would go off and the lights would turn red, you would start to sweat, you'd start to shake, and you go, and everybody would go, was it me? Did I don't know. I thought it was me. You never actually knew, unless it was obvious, who broke up.
How long did it take you for you to realize that, okay, I'm in deep water now, I got to bring the A game? Because I can imagine you walk in, it's fun, and then, like, what was the moment where the flip switch and it's like, okay, I better start taking this seriously, I better get to work?
Oh, as soon as the countdown clock started, Jay comes out, kind of talks to us, says one thing, he leaves, and you hear bop, 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 the little train comes around, and everybody immediately starts to walk away. Everyone's quiet. And you think, okay, now everyone's going into their strategies. This is time to focus, because something's going to be coming at me soon.
This feels like something that I would imagine comedians would just be doing anyway, but just sort of dialed up to 11. Like, have you had moments like this outside of, like, obviously outside of the show, but just in your career of just sitting around with other funny people trying to make each other laugh?
Oh, absolutely. But the beauty is you're allowed to laugh at that point. And there's nothing better than sitting around with a bunch of comedians, everybody telling their horror stories, the worst gig that they ever had, or when they almost died when they almost got beat up. Those are fun. And there's so many great comedians. Well, I would say most comedians are great storytellers. So you always hear great stories. But the difference is you could laugh. And that was the hard thing, was remembering, oh, yeah, that's a great story, but we're in a competition. I can't laugh.
No, I mean, obviously, especially with Whose Line, you've been in some lineups with some, like, amazing talents from, I mean, the regular people that you worked with, like Ryan and other people, but also with people like Robin and Drew and other people like that. How would those guys have survived in sort of this environment?
Drew would have gone quickly, because he's a laugher. He loves to laugh, and he'd be easy to get. Robin, I don't know. I think Robin would be someone who you'd have to immediately get into a mindset to steel yourself against the barrage that because I think he could go 6 hours straight without taking a breath. Yeah. And who else would be good? I think Ryan would probably be pretty good in this. He's fairly jaded. He can get through without laughing. Wayne Brady, again, he'd be out during the introduction.
How do you feel this sort of comments on just sort of the state of comedy in Canada? Because, I mean, obviously this really is a murderer's row of comics, and it is all from Canada.
It's great. I think it's, before the show started, I watched all of the different incarnations from around the world, and it was really interesting seeing different senses of humor in different countries. But the show was never less than fascinating. What I loved didn't matter, Japanese, Mexican, Australian, France, there was always someone who would do fart sounds. It's universal. And we had one in Canada. I was so glad, because I was afraid we can't let down the fart sound stuff. So I think Andrew had some. And I think it's a great showcase of, and this is just the tip of the iceberg of who we have in Canada, that could have been in this show. And it's so great that there was a spotlight on it, because sometimes I think we take it for granted, the amazing comedic talent we have in this country. We kind of wait until they do well in the States or elsewhere, and then we claim them as our own, as opposed to, well, everybody got their training here in Canada. This is where they got the funny. This is where they got their viewpoint, their singular vision. So I hope it really sort of makes people think, oh, you know what, let's go down to the local comedy club and check out who's there and see if there's any up and comers who could be the next Tom Green or Dave Foley. Because it's amazing the wealth of talent we have in this country, and it's criminal it's not always appreciated like it should be.
When you're in the moment, can you sort of appreciate things or even take notes of, oh, I want to work with that guy, or I really forgot how funny this person was? Or is it just sort of a battle for survival?
No, no, there are moments where you go, oh, okay, that was really funny. That's where you're going, like, inside, oh, that was really funny. Outside, hopefully you're not laughing. But yeah, any of those people I would work with in a heartbeat. What I love is the passion and the commitment. And I mean, even though it was a competition, it was still kind of like hanging out with your best friends. I really felt after the show was over and we all got together, it was sort of like, hey, we just got through the other side of that war. We're in the foxholes together and we all made it out. It felt like that.
Well, you know what? I mean, I think that comes through because, again, it's one of those things when you're watching it, again, you're rolling on the floor laughing. But I mean, even as I've only watched a couple of episodes, I'm still reflecting back on some of the bits and some of the moments that happened. And I think that's the magic of the show. It's going to be on Prime, and I can't wait for people to see it. But just thank you again for the time today, Colin. This was a lot of fun. And again, congratulations on the breadth of hilarity that you've brought audiences for decades upon decades.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. You can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.